Yeah, I was telling David the other day, I've got a plum tree right out here, and I got looking at the plum tree, and it is a English variety plum, and it looks to me more like a prune variety of a plum. It's got a different shape, a longer shape to it, and needless to say, it's had a problem with it, and it started dying off. Well, out at the root, because what they do is they'll take like a tree, so like a peach tree, a plum tree, a Japanese maple, they'll take the original version. You've seen peach trees, and they have shoots that come off the bottom of them. That is the original rootstock, because it is very hardy, it'll grow, but it also has them little knotty peaches. Y'all have all seen them before, because that is the native one. The very same thing on plum. It will grow anywhere. And so what they've done is they take this root system, and they take it and they cut all this other stuff off, and then they take a branch of a tree that has a certain characteristic that they want, and they cut into this root, and they stick this thing down in it, and they make a graft. So now they've got an established root system, but they took the potential for what this tree can become, and all of a sudden they bound it up, and then it comes up. But if you've noticed, it's the same thing with a rose bush. What does a rose bush or any tree that's been grafted, what does it want to do? It always wants to go back to its old nature, don't it, Dory? It always wants to, because you'll see, if you have a rose bush and you look down below that graft, if you don't come out there and cut off them suckers, what's going to happen? That tree is going to come back bigger. That bush is going to grow. You're going to lose the original intention. I was telling David, we was looking at this plum tree the other day. This plum tree has been grafted onto a peach tree. You remember I was telling you about the leaves? Mm-hmm. Now, when you take a different variety and you graft it onto a different variety, it has to have close to the genetics of it, but yet it's still, that original nature is wanting to come out. And you can take that original nature and it grows out, because you can go look at any kind of tree that you've got, and if you cut it, what happens, these rootstocks will actually overcome and grow faster than the tree that you're wanting to produce, that wild nature. So now we've got God using this illustration of a root. And it says that the root of the righteous yieldeth fruit. And so again, I got studying this word root. And again, that's the word. What it means, this is the word, this is the letter shin, resh, and shin, sheresh. Shin means teeth, means fire, means authority. It means all these things. It means God's power to change. But it really has to do with teeth. As when you really want to open something tough, what do we do? You bite it. You put pressure. It allows you to put pressure. It grinds things up. So now we've got this resh. Resh means head, means man, but it also means evil. And so I got the evil, and then it goes back to shin. So basically we have the authority to the teeth to grind up the evil man and to face the fire of righteousness. I was like, okay, but it still didn't make sense to me. So he says, you're not looking deep enough. So I had to go back to the front of it. It says, the wicked men, or the wicked, desireth the net of evil. So if root was the intention or what the righteous was grafted into, then what would be the thing of the evil man? The wicked desireth the net of evil men. What would it be? How about net? They desire what? What do they desire? The evil men? They desire the net. It's funny when you take this word desire net, it means matzad. The best interpretation that I got from Matt Sod means siege works. You say, well, what's siege works? I gotta get back here. Siege works is if a person wanted to conquer a land, Lance, and you've got a fortification around you. Well, what they would do, they would want their siege engines or their catapults or whatever to be cannons, Danny, to be brought closer. Well, they don't want these things sitting out there. They have got to protect their cannons, don't they? So what they do, they would put out a siege work. They'd put like a little temporary structure. And this temporary structure would allow them to protect the people who are bringing in the heavy armament. It's allowing them to bring in this stuff that's going to attack. It'll protect the thing that attacks them. So I was sitting there thinking about that this morning. I was thinking about this whole process of all this. And thinking about how that the wicked people desire this thing. They desire it. And it's funny because if you consider sin in this thing that you desire, what is this thing that you desire the most? When it talks about your desires, and it talks about in reference to sin, understand something. That desire, that little thing that you desire, this thing, this matsad, is an actual, it's a device that the enemy uses to gain ground around you. So, Dory, we find that we're desiring these things that's causing us to lose this battle. Now, all this is all very complicated, and he goes out there, and I'm like, God, I don't understand it. But he said, you've not looked deep enough yet. So here it is, I'm trying to make sense. And so I can see all y'all's faces are all trying to make sense of this thing. You go like, what? I don't understand it. Remember, don't get hung up with what you're studying. Ask God to reveal what you need to study, what you need to understand. I remember this letter right there. It's a resh. This is this letter right here. I remember this because a resh represents an evil person. Now remember, if we want to grow as Christians, and if we want to become better Christians, what do we have to face? Ourselves, don't we? We talked about this. Because when you're going through the alphabet, each letter starts and it tells a story. Resh tells a story of an evil person or a wicked person. It says if the wicked person, the Resh, desires to change, if it desires to change, it has to go back to the letter that was in front of it. This Qaf. That is a letter, if you remember, that represents the monkey. In other words, you look like a Christian, you act like a Christian, but in reality, you're still a monkey. You're just doing the mimicry of being a Christian. So if you want to be a righteous person, you want to be a good person, you have to go back and face the fact that you're a fake. You have to face the fact that you're not living the life. You've got the semblance of this life. It looks good. But if you remember about this word right here, this letter right here, this is the one that has the tail hanging down, which meant that you have the semblance of a good person, but part of you is still in the world. So if you want to get away from being, in other words, you wanting to change, you've realized and you've come to accept the fact that you are a resh, you are a wicked person, you are a person who desires change. What you have to do, you have to go back and deal with this fact that this is your existence. You've been faking it. It's time to stop faking being a Christian. Because the thing is, the Bible says in the end days, when the books are open, what is going to be presented to us? The evidence that we were what? Fake. But you got to ask this question. here in this one, we've got this word, and it looks right here. This resh. But come to find out, the resh has another letter that looks like it. And it represents a righteous person. This letter is called a delet. So if I take these two, I'm going to pull this together real fast now. Now remember, all I've done is establish something. What we're establishing is, don't get hung up with what you're studying. Pursue what is real. Do you see how these two look the same? How can one represent a righteous person, and how can this one represent a wicked person? I'm sitting there last night, and I'm having this. I know y'all don't have arguments with yourself about, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do this, I shouldn't do this, I shouldn't have to do this. And I'm sitting there, David, I'm like, folding clothes. And I'm probably arguing about having to fold clothes. And I'm like, why do I have to be the bigger person? Why do I have to do this? God does not say that I have to do this. No sooner, Dory, than I say, God does not say that I have to do this right here. He says, I hear it in the back of my mind. He says, blessed are the peacemakers. And I start laughing. It's funny. It's comical. Because here it is. I'm trying to say, well, God didn't say this, and God answers. So that tells me that this practice that I've been going through has been yielding fruit. Now God is willing to talk to me more frequently because I've been pursuing God. But the problem is that God here is telling me, yeah, I said something about it. Blessed are the peacemakers. Be the peacemaker. I'm like, oh, man, so there goes my whole excuse for my whole out of saying these things. Well, I don't have to do these things. Yes, we are peacemakers. Why should I have to worry about being a peacemaker? Why do I have to worry about going to church? Why do these things consume me as they do? It is because of the similarities of these two letters, because you see how they're similar except for one thing. What's the difference?
That one keeps on going.
Yes. You know what this is called? It's a letter. It's called a yod. This letter makes a yod, believe it or not. The yod is a reference towards, let me see, get my words right. All right. The yod represents the judgment that will take place in the world. The delet looks like the resh, but the resh doesn't have a yod. The delet is someone who has always on his mind that there will be a day of judgment. Therefore, is convinced that whatever he says and does, he will be accountable for. Now, we're getting to the meat of this thing. This little bitty extension right here represents the judgment of the world to come. This guy right here lives his life minus that conviction that we one day will face a world with which judgment shall come. When we start living our life in our world and basing every decision, this is the key that we have to grasp a hold of. Everything that we've been doing has been bringing us to this point of trying to find the key that opens the door that God was with us constantly. Like Zeke and I was talking about this morning. He says, okay, God, if you're not going to heal my foot, then give me the strength to deal with it. See, to me, that is the words of a righteous man. Because the thing is that we want the fruit. Now remember, I started this, the concept that started this whole thing was the concept of us desiring fruit. We're always wanting the fruit of God. We're always wanting God to do these things for us, aren't we?